So how's it been? It's been a while since we've had you on the show. Talk to us about what's happening with Ms. Foundation, how your tenure is going. You know, we Black EDs often have our own little side chats that we can have offline. But talk to us about how your organization is navigating this current moment politically and on behalf of the nation's women.
Yeah, it is quite a moment in history. About 8 years ago, the Ms. Foundation decided explicitly that we would center our work around women and girls of color as a point of inclusion, not exclusion, right? We saw that it was women and girls of color in this country who were doing the baseline work for almost every social justice movement, and yet they were not included at the tables. They were not included in the decision making. They were not included in the trust that it takes to get the job done. So 8 years later, here we are with this very exciting time where we have a multiracial woman of color not having just served as the vice president and currently serving, but now we are seeing what I call, women's excellence in leadership. And we
Mm.
saw it with Hillary Clinton, and we've seen it with others before, but it does really show, I think, hopefully, the American people, because the world already knows that women's excellence in leadership is what has kept the wheels turning across the country and across the world. And here in the United States, we actually get to have real conversations. So I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited because our partners in the field are being seen. And also, I'm excited because we just wrapped up a campaign I want to tell you about, and we just started a new funding strategy through the middle of the country. And so, these are all like, how do we change philanthropy and change philanthropy because we trust the voices of women and gender expansive people who are telling us what they need? We are in at the Ms. Foundation a very challenging, very hard time, and a very joyful time, very exciting
Mm.
time for movement space. And we have to, help our grantee partners in the field as well as help philanthropy um, move more money to women and girls of color and gender expansive people. And we need to lift up the successes of what is happening in the field.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting to me, and I want to delve into this campaign and talk a little bit more about it. One of the things that's interesting to me is that you made this commitment, your organization made this commitment 8 years ago. You're still here. We saw organizations make commitments just 2, 3, 4 years ago that have completely abandoned all efforts to support this particular population. Talk to us about why this has been something that you've been able to commit to and consistently expand your commitment to
Oh.
in ways that I think is particularly as we are in Black Philanthropy Month. I know Ms. is not necessarily a Black organization, but as we're thinking about shifting philanthropy, talk with us about why it is you've been able to maintain this commitment.
Wow, that's such a good question. I don't know that it was ever an option not to hold the commitment. As a woman of color myself, the
Mm.
staff here at the Ms. Foundation are 85% women of color. The executive
Wow.
leadership team is 100% women of color. And the board is 60% people of color. And so I think when you look at all of that, you know, we have been intentional. We made a statement of what we wanted to do, but we've been really intentional about
Mm.
this legacy institution being a starting point for people to get into philanthropy, so that we could be there. And, what you read in my bio is true. I am the longest serving CEO of color in the Ms. Foundation's history. And CEOs of color of large public foundations, we just are not out there. How many women are leading large institutions, women of color? We've seen an increase in the past 8 years, but, the reality is there are not that many. And so we know at the Ms. Foundation the success of what it means to invest and be inclusive. And so we just have not walked away from that. In fact, we've stayed true to that. And as I said, it's not exclusion. It's not exclusive of white leadership. It
Yeah.
is it is inclusive of women of color. It is inclusive of gender expansive people. That's a very different conversation to be had
Mhm.
about the work we're trying to do. And so, I wake up every day and look myself in the mirror. I look at my colleagues around the office every day. I see our grantee partners on a pretty regular basis. And I realize we have to stay true to the work that we are doing. And it didn't just happen, right? We made a statement, we made a commitment in 2016. In 2018, it was public, so everybody knew about it, right? And then it took some time. We had to build up the case for why we needed to invest in women and girls of color. And we needed to hold that and then show philanthropy that you can have success.
Mm.
Oppression, we didn't start the oppression
That's right.
rodeo here, but we have ridden it and we are striving on the other side of it. And so, I think the board has come on board. They were fully committed when we did it. They were in the process. The staff, they come here so that they can do this work and know that they are changing the future of the country. And our partners are on the ground doing the work because they know it needs to get done. And you know this, we talked about this before too. We do heart work. We don't just do work because we have nothing better to do when we want to make millions of dollars. That's just not happening in the philanthropic space. And it's not, well, it might be happening in another philanthropic space, but it's not happening in the nonprofit social justice spaces. It's
Mm.
not happening in the gender justice spaces. And so
Yeah.
we do this because it's in our heart. And,
Right.
I've said this before, I'm a Girl Scout in my heart. I want to make the world a better place, period. And I
Mhm.
know it will be a better place the more voices we have at the table.
I'm so glad you used the word joy. Every day on this show, at the very beginning of the show, we have this segment called The Moment of Gratitude. And we're moving into a segment now that's focusing on joy as an intentional emotion. All right. We know that when we're
Yep.
steeped in gratitude, we can't be trapped by fear. And so I'm loving that we are hearing so many more leaders, particularly women leaders, unabashedly reference joy as a part of doing the work. It's so extraordinarily important. This is hard stuff. It's heart work, but it's also hard
Hard
work, and
work.
it
Yes.
requires there. Can I tell you how many nights I have laid awake, not because of dreams of grandeur, but thinking about administration, paperwork, staffing, and just the things that are going to allow us to move
100%.
into
hmm
making this world a better place. Let's
hmm
talk about this campaign.
Yeah.
Tell us what the goals are, and how you decided this is where you wanted to focus, and how we, the people, can help amplify your dreams. Not
Sure.
dreams,
Sure.
your goals and your vision. Dreams feels
Yeah.
personal. The institutional dream that you're coming to
Well,
with this campaign.
yeah, so the Ms. Foundation is a public foundation. We get our dollars from all of us out there believing in the Ms. Foundation, and then we move those dollars and our thought leadership and our capacity building to the field. We move those dollars out. And so we are only as strong as those that believe in us. And once we knew we had the data from our pocket change report that emphasized that the fact that, say, 1.2 percent of all philanthropic dollars are going to women and girls. Less than 0.5% are going to women and girls of color. We had that data
I'm
point.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That can't be right. That
Oh,
that I don't mean to doubt a black woman, but my God, are you what did I hear you say 1.2% of philanthropic dollars are going to women and girls, and half of that is going to could you just say that one more
less,
time?
yeah, yeah. So the updated numbers for overall women and girls in the country will come out soon, but it was about 1.2% in the past, which means like very little intentionally. So this is the other side of it. Sometimes we give money, philanthropy gives money, and they just assume it's going to affect women and girls. But what is happening intentionally to move the needle and support women and girls in this country?
Hmm.
And then the Ms. Foundation did a report called Pocket Change. It's a series of reports, how women and girls of color do more with less. Living with Pocket Change is part 2, which is looking at the impact of being underinvested in for women and girls of color. And the third part of that series will come out next year in 2025. But what we found in when we did it in 2020, the first report was that less than 0.5% of all philanthropic dollars are intentionally going to women and girls of color. This is before the Fearless Fund decision happened. And
Oh,
so then we thought we saw an uptick because of the racial injustices, the work that was going on around road dropping, etc. And corporate philanthropy stalled out. And other parts of philanthropy said, we can't be so bold as to say Black women, women and girls of color. We can't be so bold as to say that. So we're going to see some numbers that shift. But the whole purpose of Pocket Change was to say there is an underinvestment in this country. Everybody needs to understand what that looks like. On the national average, it's $4.48. And if you break it down by geographic location, the middle of the country and the South, it's $2.22 per woman and girl of color that philanthropy was investing.
oh my
In the
God.
Midwest, it's slightly more than that. So what we knew going in, I mean, it's horrifying, and every nonprofit should pull Pocket Change and read it. It will, I'm
Yes.
sure it will hurt, you will feel it in your soul, because part
Mm.
two, what it means to be underinvested in, you know this well, which is we had a partner who commented, and she said, I never have a full tank of gas. I strive just to get to 50%, to have a half a tank gas to do this work. What would it mean if I actually had more than a half a tank every day?
Mm.
You and I both know what that feels like, when it means, like, when you're laying in bed and you just need, another X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we have decided at the foundation to not fund in silos. So we're not funding health and safety, and we're not necessarily funding um, economic justice, and we're not funding environmental justice exclusively. We took away all those silos, and it was because of many of the folks we were talking to said our lives are not divided into silos, and yet philanthropy
Right.
wants to fund us that way. So we
Right.
said, we're going to fund movements, and we're going to fund space. So we have an L strategy through the middle of the country and through the South. We knew that we needed to have dollars to move. And if we are not stable as an institution, we can't consistently provide multi-year dollars to our partners in the field. So as our 50th anniversary rolled up a year and a half ago now, 2 years ago, we said, let's raise money. And we got a huge planned gift from a donor, Lucia Woods Lindley. And she, 20 years ago, wrote us
Can you
into
say the
her
name one more
will.
time? Right as you were saying it, zoomed it a computer love type thing. What was the name of the donor again?
The donor's name was Lucia Woods Lindley.
Mm.
And 20 years ago, she was a leading feminist philanthropist. She was like way out there, and she saw the potential of Ms. being a national leader and continuing to be a national leader. So she left us money in her will. She left us what we thought
Mm.
was going to be $10 million, and it ended up being 50. And so that base, that base said to us, we don't know what we're planning for in the future, but if we plan for the future, here's what we can do. And so we talked to the board of directors, and they said, we think you should shoot big. If you already have this $50 million commitment in, you should shoot for $100 million. So we
Mm.
did a $100 million campaign led by women of color, to raise for the endowment and over time, so that we could stabilize the organization. And as of August 1st, we started it in January of 2023. So we wanted to do it in 18 months because we knew how intense it would be. We've raised $106 million.
A
Uh,
round of applause, air horns. Wait, where is it? Amina, come on, give it up. That is phenomenal. That is amazing. I'm so happy for you. I'm sorry, I feel like I got the money. That is phenomenal. Congratulations.
and the way it happened is what we sometimes forget, because the Black transition of wealth is so small, but
Right.
70% of these dollars are planned gifts. It is what people have said they will leave us in their will. They will leave us as a
Mm.
percentage of their life insurance policies. And the reason that's important is because it means we will see this money come in over time and help us to
Mm.
just be able to know that there's going to be, over the next 30 years, dollars coming into the foundation. And
Mm.
sometimes it's going to be $20,000 or $5,000. And sometimes it'll be $1 million or $2 million. And maybe, just maybe, out there's another large gift. And so I'm thrilled. It's probably one of my proudest moments in my 10
I
years
bet.
here at the Ms. Foundation, is to have raised this. And on top of it, I mean, there's some great, for people that are fundraisers, we secured 1,500 new donors, people
My,
who are giving to us monthly, right? $100 monthly is $1,200 a year. $1,200 a year helps us to make sure that somebody can turn their lights on. $1,200 a year times 100 people, right? So, like, people can do and make gifts. You don't have to be the person who leaves $10 million or $50 million. You can be the person who figures out how to give $10 a month to the organizations that they care about. And the reason that's important is because stabilizing income is critical to nonprofits. And if you know that you have that, I mean, that's why many radio stations out there, the public ones, know if you can make a monthly commitment, you get the stability of knowing. And when you have the stability of knowing that you have dollars coming in, you can think bigger about liberation.
that's
You
right.
can
That's
think
right.
bigger about impact. And that's what I want the Ms. Foundation. That's why this campaign was so important, was because it allows us, we don't know how much it's going to come in year over year, but we know that the potential is out there, and that we can make multi-year gifts, and that we can, you know, I can be thinking of what's the next conversation that needs to happen? How are we looking and assessing masculinity and feminism? And what does it look like to have an intersectional and interconnected approach to the issues and the problems addressing society? And how do we support our partners in the field?
Mm. Teresa, I'm going to do something I usually don't do. I try to do this at the beginning of a segment before we're on air. Do you have to go? This segment is supposed to end in like 3 minutes. Do you
Oh,
have to go?
no, I can
If
stay a
you do,
little
it's fine.
longer. I can
Okay,
stay a
because
little
I
longer.
feel as as much as I'm so excited about this phenomenal success, you are also giving us a real understanding as to the mechanics of funding. And one of the things that we do on this channel is we have this initiative called Urban View Gives, and it was started because a caller, I was interviewing Hassan Abdur,
Uh-huh.
who was a part of the HBCU scholarship ride. Shout out to them. They're actually riding. I think they just finished their ride last weekend, and they raised money for HBCU students coming out of
Hmm.
Newark, New Jersey. And we had a caller who called in and said, "I love this organization. We here at Urban View. I mean, there's a couple million people in our audience
Right.
from 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning rather until the end of the night, and then the reruns 7 days a week." And he said the caller was like, "We should all, as a body, give to the same organization each month." Our architect, the amazing Karen Hunter, was listening, and she heard that, and she's on these airways from 3 to 6, and she's just amazing in every way. And she was like, "We're doing that." And so for this year, we have every month focused on a different organization. This
Mm.
month during Black August, it's Collective Pack, but we have focused on a different organization. My organization, the Center for Law and Social Justice, we were the beneficiaries of February. When I tell you, being able to tell my team that we had over 300 new donors, very different from 1,500, but we are a small organization, sis. So you know what it is.
Everyone counts. Yes.
Everyone counts. And being able to have money that I can now invest in our interns, I can invest in the staff, I can go beyond the sometimes limitations of grants that are very limited and what we can do and we can maneuver. It has been paradigm shifting for us in
Hmm.
some really significant ways. And so this is Black Philanthropy Month, and we have a lot of nonprofit leaders and workers in the audience. And it is so important for us, particularly from within the Black community. And this is not just a Black audience, but I'm speaking
Yeah.
specifically to the global majority right now. We know from the data that
Sorry.
Black communities are the most generous when it comes to giving and philanthropy. Proportionally, out of our incomes comes a greater amount of money going to support nonprofit causes, even if it's not specifically to nonprofit institutions, in some very significant ways. And what you're helping us to understand, I think, in really important ways, is the mechanics of that and how that can be society shifting,
Yeah.
because what you're going to be able to do right now isn't just limited to, as you said, one year, one program, one topic. You're going to be able to help shift and expand opportunity across society. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's just absolutely phenomenal. Teresa, we were talking about the campaign that the Ms. Foundation successfully launched, that 18-month campaign that allows you to kick off with that $50 million donation that was left in a will, left
Mm-hmm.
as a gift for you. And that to me, and then many of the other gifts that came in are going to take a similar form. That to me is an under discussed form of giving. And I know, again, in our communities, we are very generous. We give more of our resources and income to support philanthropic efforts than do any other. But that specific mechanism of giving, talk to us a little bit more about that. We have wills, we have trusts, we have insurance policies. Are we to understand, and I'm saying this a little tongue in cheek because damn this we're to understand, are we to understand that we can use our end of life giving as our end of life will exercises and preparing our final plans? Are you saying that we can use that as a way to also support the causes that we cared about while we were here?
You got it. You got it. What I think people sometimes, everybody gets a little worked up over, oh my gosh, my money, I'm not going to have any. I don't have any now, blah, blah, blah. That is beside the point. What is the legacy you want to leave? And
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? And how do you do that? Oftentimes I want to make sure my kids and my family are okay. They will be. Um,
Yep.
and there are organizations, institutions, and the alignment that need to continue in order for us to create a safe and just world. So it
Mm-hmm.
can be your alma mater, but more aptly, look at the organizations that are doing the grassroots work or the organizations that are doing the big picture work and doing it slightly differently that you connect to. And then leave them as a beneficiary in your will or your life insurance. You should be reviewing those every year or so anyhow, but just put it in and then let the organization know. And then you don't have to go back and change it every time you have a new organization that you love, but build a relationship with an organization. That's what we did with the Lucia Wood Lindley gift. We had a relationship with this woman. She understood what kind of work we wanted to do. She understood the value of that. And we know, quite honestly, as you have said, we know that it is Black philanthropy that that is having the greatest impact. We've given to churches, we give to colleges and universities, we give to schools, we even give to healthcare, and this is a time when people just need to think about what that looks like. We need to be talking about money not as if it's an oh my gosh, but as a concrete thing that we can transfer over and that we can write into our wills, write into our life insurance policies.
Right. This idea of building relationships, since only 1.2% of funding is going to women and girl led or organizations that focus there, and less than half of that going to Black organizations, there may be also a lack of understanding of what it means to build a relationship with a potential philanthropic partner. Could you just tease that out a little bit? We
Yeah.
have, we have very sophisticated groups representing this audience and then groups that are just starting. What does, in your view of the world, what does it look like to build a relationship with a potential donor or a philanthropic entity?
Yeah, so when I say build relationship, I'm not saying you need to call somebody every week. I'm not even
Thank
saying you
you.
need to do it every month, right?
Mhm.
And this is not for the donor. This is not you putting a demand on a partner in
Right.
the field, right? This
Yes.
is about building trust. Do you know who they are? Do you understand why they're doing it? Are you signed up for their newsletters?
Mhm.
Are you showing up at their events? That's a relationship that people can get behind. This is not you're not you might be wanting to date the date the organization, but this is who is the leadership? Do you agree with their mission? How do you build those conversations? Now, if you're the partner, you're the grantee partner or the person that's communicating with the donor, are you doing it regularly? Not every
Mhm.
day, but are you doing it 2 or 3 times a year? Do you
Yeah.
recognize them for the relationship, not just for the money? Right? And
Right.
then and you it can be a newsletter. It can be a quick email. It does not have to be a 12-page document. It
Right.
is, it is about like, what makes that donor interested in your organization.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
explaining to the donor also how challenging it is, trusting the donor to trust you. So, you would love to be in contact with them every month. However, given all of the responsibilities that are going on in this oftentimes shortness of staff or shortness of
Right.
time in order for you to care for yourself, is it okay if you communicate with them 3 times a year?
Mm.
Not a
I
not
love
a
that.
written report. Not a
Right.
written report. A quick call to say, "Hey, here are the 3 things we're up to this past quarter," or 1 thing we're up to. You don't have to do 25 things. Or here's a challenge that we're seeing. Being in a relationship that says like, "Isn't it wonderful that we have a woman running for president of the United States from a
Mm.
major party at this moment in time?" When the
Right.
alternative is feminism or fascism.
Mm.
Right? And
Feminism or
so
fascism. Wow.
so so, because I see the feminism as the social, political, and economic equality of all, right? And
Mm.
so when I see a leader, a woman, not just because she's a woman, but a woman who has continuously put into play what equity, equality, power, and possibility all looks like, that makes me say that's a feminist leader that I want to get behind. On the other side of that is only the rich and wealthy are going to get A, B, and C, and you will no longer have some of these systems that support a growing democracy. That's how I see those. So, understanding, like just calling somebody and being like, uh, you know, our interns we've gotten a greater number of interns applying for this year. It would be great if you could help us with that. And I will just say this one last thing before I know you've got to go and I've got to jump. But the last thing I would say is donors and activists in the field, let's give money to support the operations of an organization, not just the special projects. I know we all get
Yes.
excited about special projects, but general operating support,
Oh
being
my
a
God.
trust that the people are doing the best they can. Trust that they know where the dollars need to go. And if you can't turn the lights on and you can't pay your interns and you can't pay your staff and you don't have any health benefits, then you can't be asking them to go out and do all the other work. So
That's
give
right.
general operating support,
Yeah.
give it consistently, and
Yep.
give it with no strings so that people can do it. And so, many of the nonprofit groups that are out there are fighting every single day on the work they're trying to do. And we're pushing back on oppressions we did not design. And so
That's
these
right.
are systemic changes. So let's trust that somebody might know a little more. You might have skills, but like I always say, we love a good volunteer, but some organizations do not need you in to paint their walls.
That's right.
They just need you to help them get the lights turned on.
That's right.
Or
Otherwise, no
they
one can
need
see the
you.
walls.
Exactly. So I'm a big proponent, and the Ms. Foundation does this consistently. We provide general operating support to our partners, and we have over 200 partners across the United States and in the US territories, all run
Mhm.
by women and girls and gender expansive people, 90% run by women and girls of color. And so, that is what we do. We trust that they have the answers. It's not always going to be 100% perfect, but we are letting them go and do what they need to do. And if they fail, we want to help them get back up and keep on moving forward.
Mm. And that's why you are the leader of this phenomenal organization. You got it. When you all release this next iteration of the report next year, I really hope we can get you to come back. I
Yeah.
want to talk about the third report, the third installment of this report. Teresa C. Younger, Ms. Foundation for Women. We appreciate you. Congratulations. This is
Thank you.
wonderful. And it really is going to help change not just projects and programs, but it's going to help change society. And that's something that
Thank
I'm
you.
very much interested in. Really, I'm so excited for you. Ah!
Thank you.
So great.